We got a lot of stuff to talk about. It's going to be fun today, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off with our good friend, and this was this morning. I didn't even get to watch it, fam. I don't think it was on TV. I think it was in a closed door session, but stuff was going on. I don't know if you heard this. We have a little video over here. If you don't know who Devin Archer is, ladies and gentlemen, Devin Archer was one of the partners for Seneca Partners, which was Hunter Biden's business, in which he went on the Burisma board and all these other things. When a lot of people are saying Hunter's never had a history in oil, how did he get this job on the Burisma board? Well, Devin Archer was one of Hunter Biden's old partners when it came to this whole situation. He was set to testify this morning in a closed-door hearing for 4 hours, 1 hour with Republicans, 1 hour with Democrats, 1 hour with Republicans, 1 hour with Democrats, for 4 hours, closed doors, to talk about what had taken place in Ukraine with Hunter Biden. Now, he didn't show up to previous hearings before, but he was definitely going to show up to this one. Devin Archer has another case non-related to this whole situation in which he has to serve a year in prison for. Well, fam, what the DOJ tried to do over the weekend was try to say, we're going to go arrest him now and take him to jail so he can't testify. There was an uproar. Everybody went crazy. It was obviously the Joe Biden Department of Justice playing little games so he wouldn't testify in that hearing, and they wouldn't have the ability to who knows, maybe impeach Joe Biden. So they tried to play games. They eventually retracted. But let's take a look. What a coincidence. The DOJ is totally trying to arrest Devin Archer before his testimony on Monday. How convenient. Let's take a look at the video. This is Maria Bartoloma breaking the news over the weekend on Sunday.
I want to ask you about your investigation, but first, let me get to this breaking news. I have in my hand a letter from the Department of Justice that was sent to the Southern District of New York on Saturday. By the way, Devin Archer is testifying on Monday. Do you usually see the DOJ send letters like this out on a Saturday?
Never. This is the first time I've ever heard of the Department of Justice doing anything on a Saturday.
So what is this letter? Can you walk us through it? The government is apprising the court of the status of Devin Archer's appeal of his judgment of conviction, and they request that the court set a surrender date for the defendant to report to a facility. Please walk us through what this letter says.
Yeah, the letter from the Department of Justice is trying to nudge the judge to go ahead and sentence Devin Archer for something unrelated to what we're going to be talking to him about tomorrow. It's odd that it was issued on a Saturday, and it's odd that it's right before he's scheduled to come in to have an opportunity to speak in front of the House Oversight Committee and tell the American people the truth about what really went on with Burisma. So, I don't know if this is a coincidence, Maria, or if this is another example of the weaponization of the Department of Justice, but I can tell you this. The lengths to which the Biden legal team has gone to try to intimidate our witnesses, to coordinate with the Department of Justice, and to certainly coordinate with the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee to encourage people not to cooperate with our investigation, to encourage banks not to turn over bank records, to encourage Treasury not to let us have access to those suspicious activity reports. It's very troubling, and I believe that this is another violation of the law. This is obstruction of justice, but nevertheless, we're going to continue.
I think you're muted.
So either way, fam, if it's just inconvenient or convenient, whatever one you want to talk about, inconvenient for the Republicans, convenient for the Democrats, they decided to take him and whisk him off to jail, or it's just a form of intimidation, letting them know, hey, man, watch what you say. Your thoughts, fam. And then we have the New York Post pull up.
Yeah, I mean, this is something the Democratic Party has been doing now forever. They've been trying to use Trump as a scapegoat this whole time. And anytime that they come under the microscope, they will manipulate the media like the New York Post. They will censor it on Twitter. They will do whatever they can to avoid any sort of light being shown on the current administration. And we know that obviously both parties do ultimately work in tandem for the predator class. But in this case, when we're talking about pushing the attention away from the Bidens, they have really gone overboard. And with them, of course, the Department of Justice, which is a complete misnomer at this point. It's the Department of Injustice. It's completely corrupt. We know this obviously from Julian Assange, from journalism and the persecution of any sort of dissident. But anytime that any sort of spots or any sort of dirty dealings with the Bidens is shown, they completely, push things away. And that's what they've been doing with Hunter Biden. If Hunter Biden was anyone else, he would be in jail right now. If the Bidens were anyone else, Biden wouldn't have become president because of the previous dealings he had with Burisma and the involvement, and Nancy Pelosi, and I believe it was Kerry and others who were involved in Burisma wouldn't be serving public office. But we don't live in a democratic republic or any of that. We live, and this is what I think people on the right have to come to terms with. We don't live in a constitutional republic either. We don't live in a democracy. We don't live in any of this. And like, the more you try to sort of pretend that it still is, the worse it's going to get.
Yeah. Fam, Rand Paul said over the weekend too as well, that, or the other day, I don't know if it was necessarily over the weekend, maybe a couple of days ago, that he doesn't think that we should, that the Congress should impeach Hunter Biden. He doesn't want to see this going back and forth. He's taking this kind of approach that, like, look, it's not that he's not, he's guilty or he could possibly be guilty, but now we're starting to play tennis. And this is really bad for our country if we continue just to play political games. When the Democrats come into power, they impeach the Republican. The Republicans come into power, they impeach the Democrats. Do you have any thoughts on what Rand Paul said? And what are you, because look, my doctor who stitched my fingers, she was definitely a liberal because we started talking politics. And she's like, and this Hunter Biden situation is so stupid. Trump's son, when he got out of office, made all this money. He should be impeached. And it's like, they have this tense mentality now. It's just, so divided. Do you have any thoughts on that and what Rand Paul said as far as not impeaching Hunter Biden? Do you agree or disagree with him? Because Hunter Biden is guilty AF, really bad.
I think Hunter Biden should be prosecuted separately from this tennis match game. But was it Ron Paul who said that, or Rand Paul?
But Rand Paul said it. He
think
impeach Joe Biden for Joe Biden because Rand Paul really more than likely Hunter Biden couldn't have done these things without his father's help, without the big guy's help. So
I think it's ultimately though going to be a game of tennis because that's what's convenient. He said it's bad for America. It's bad for the American people, but it's great for American politics. This is what American politics is all about. Going after, playing this tennis match, this endless tennis match, and going after the other for the same thing the other did. That is what American politics is. This is why I really can't take it seriously, because this is all that it is. Without this, where would American politics be? Without the eternal fight of Democrats and Republicans, people wouldn't know what to do. They don't know how to actually work together for the American people. It hasn't been about that for a long, long time. And so I just don't see that happening, because this is what keeps these parties fundraising. This is what keeps people in Team Blue versus Team Red. Yeah. This precisely this type of tennis back and forth. So I don't think that's going to change regardless. And I do think that it is a back and forth, but I do think Hunter Biden was far more guilty than anything that the Trump's son or anybody ever did. And I think separately from whether it's Trump's son or Biden's son, these individuals should be prosecuted for what they did, because if they were any regular person, they would be. And that's the problem. The people are above the law. We saw what happened with Sam Bankman-Fried. People are above the law if they have enough influence, enough power, and enough money. And they're when you try to frame this as no, we support the law, we have law and order here, and we don't. And this is why whenever Americans, especially politicians, talk about the brutal dictatorship in Syria, how Putin is a thug, and how, the human rights violations in Nicaragua or in Iran, all this other stuff that they talk about. It's like, well, really, even if all of that were true, which we know it isn't, but even if it were, who are you to place blame when you really have an elite class of politicians, of celebrities that are above the law, and then you pretend that everybody is on equal footing?
It's funny because I always got a lot of shit because a lot of people, I would say, like, Donald Trump would need 3 terms to catch up to the corruption and the bullshit and the bad decisions and the warmongering that Joe Biden pushed. And I would always mention the fact that, yeah, maybe Trump was an asshole and stuff, but he made the majority of his money on hospitality, right? And his sons, they might have cut backdoor deals with, plants or factories in China, or if they did hospitality hotels they built in Dubai or in the kingdom in Saudi Arabia and stuff like that. But Joe Biden has made his money through resource extraction and war for so long. And now he's taken his son along to get part of these deals. It's just a different level. And I know I get called a Trumper or a Trump sympathizer when I point out those things, but they really are true. And I agree with you. I think Hunter Biden should get prosecuted for what he did. It's so crazy that it's his father's fucking bill, the crime bill, in which those people that we're talking about, people of color, black people in the States, Latino people in the States, even poor white trash in the States, go away for a long time for doing the same thing that Hunter Biden did. Hunter Biden threw a fucking gun in the trash can. Let's go to the New York Post article really quick. I'm just going to read the first couple paragraphs just to reiterate what we're talking about. The Justice Department is pushing for Devin Archer to report to prison just days ahead of the former Hunter Biden business partners' hotly anticipated congressional testimony, according to the new court date documents. Manhattan federal prosecutors on Saturday filed a letter requesting a judge set a date for Archer, who is 58 years old, to start his 1-year sentence in a fraud case unrelated to the first son's various scandals. The request came after the Second Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed Archer's 2018 conviction last Tuesday on 2 felony charges for his role in a conspiracy to defraud a Native American tribe. Archer, who was set to deliver a closed-door testimony to the House Oversight Committee on Monday, which was today, about Biden, had been challenging the conviction. In light of the appeals court ruling, the DOJ respectfully requests that the defendant be ordered to surrender at a date and time determined by the court to a facility designated to the Bureau of Prisons to commence his term of imprisonment, reads the letter to Judge Ronnie Ames. And that was what came out, and everybody started going crazy. Everybody started going nuts. And then they reversed it. And I put up Ben Rubinstein, who reported, and Ben's been doing some great videos on the Convo Couch Twitter, guys. If you could put that up, Cheese Slice. Ben's article thing, he says, this is wild. First Hunter gets caught right before his corrupt sweetheart plea deal. It gets scrapped. Now they reverse course on arresting Devin Archer before his congressional testimony. Twitter is busting the Biden's mafia game and exposing their attempts to corrupt the DOJ. Heads are going to roll. And there's the letter, fam. Right? You know what I'm saying? It's there. They then reverse the decision on what's going on, and they say, okay, we'll back off. We won't have him report right away. But it was obviously an attempt by the Joe Biden Department of Justice to either stop him from testifying or to bully him and threaten him and let him know if he opens his mouth too much, something's going to happen, fam.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is endless. I mean, this is nepotism, top nepotism. The liberals were talking about how Donald Trump and nepotism, which, I mean, you could argue that there definitely was, but this takes it to a whole new level. This takes it with to involvement in foreign policy. It takes it to involvement in U.S. Policy making. And it really, really exposes not just the Bidens, but the entire both Democrats and Republicans who participated in Burisma. It exposes the fact that Joe Biden's son is above the law when it comes to drugs. Democrats were even saying, oh, it's just cocaine. It's just a little cocaine. So all of a sudden it's just a little cocaine. But literally Joe Biden was the one who created the policies and laws that jailed, a lot of Black and brown people, a lot of working people of all ethnicities. And so now it's kind of like, they're diminishing this. But if we were to turn the tables and it was a Republican that was found with cocaine, the reaction would be different. And this is what people are really angry about when it comes to the Democratic Party right now, is they are the war party. They've turned into the party of censorship. They've turned into the party that was, they are the antithesis of what they were supposed to be. And so this is why they've lost a lot of people to the Republican Party. And it's just, that's where things are at right now in the US. They're making Republicans look like the lesser of evils, which is insane to people who have seen this sort of flip come, and it's kind of crazy out there.
Yeah. I've seen this movie before. Put up the letter real quick, Cheese Slice. I want to take one quick look at it, really, and I'm going to just read the middle part. It's so funny right here. I don't know if you can make it bigger. It says, the government understands the defendant is scheduled to provide testimony to Congress tomorrow on July 31st, 2023. To be clear, the government does not request and has never requested, in parentheses, that the defendant surrender before his congressional testimony. As the court knows, to surrender and commence his sentence of imprisonment, the defendant first must be designated to a federal facility by the Bureau of Prisons, a process that can take several weeks or months after the court sets a surrender date. They're so full of shit, fam. They just moonwalk it back. Nonetheless, the avoidance of all doubt, the government requests that any surrender date, should the court order one, be scheduled to occur after the defendant's congressional testimony is completed. Somebody must have made a fucking phone call and told them, fam, hey, this looks really, really bad, what you're trying to do. Can you please put out a letter or a statement that moonwalks and says, let's not go after him and have him report? They clearly on the weekend, which they never do this shit, made a statement to try to say he's got to report, arrest him now, put him in the federal bureau of the Bureau of Prison, and then we'll get him off to do his 1-year sentence so that he either cannot testify or we're punking him and letting him know he better not open his mouth too much. Just a crazy, bizarre story, fam. And I wonder what happened today. I know it was closed doors. I don't know if it was on TV or if it was recorded anywhere or if they got anything, but I'm just dying to hear what he said too as well. Clint Russell from Liberty Lockdown made a tweet about this. I hung out with Clint over the weekend. We had a good time. And he was even stating, like, this is popcorn worthy, but this guy's going to testify. It's stuff we already knew. We have the links. We have the receipts. Those IRS whistleblowers that we talked about last week, fam. You know what I'm saying? There's 17 million they have in phony businesses, a lot of them set up in Ukraine. There's obviously dirty shit going on with the Biden administration. And listen, it couldn't have been done. Hunter Biden couldn't have done this without his father. He had to have the help of the big guy. So, unfortunately, I think the Republicans in the House are going to use this to go after and impeach Joe Biden. But, we should know the truth of what's to the T. The American people deserve to know what exactly took place with Hunter and Joe.